the story that everybody's talking about is LeBron James. He goes on Pat McAfee, says a lot of things. And now Stephen A. Smith, a couple hours before we're recording this, is going back at LeBron James. There's a lot to get to. Frankly, I'm not that interested in the particulars of what it is that LeBron was saying and some of the things that he was insinuating or accusing people of. But to me, the why of it all is more interesting. Why would the league's biggest star go on Pat McAfee's show for an extended sit down, something we don't see him do very often, if ever, really, and then and using that platform to start going at journalists and media personalities with one of the league's biggest partners on that partner's airwaves? Is that good? I guess there's a lot of places we could take this, but do you think that that's good or bad for the sport, given that the sport has seemed to lean a little into the whole wrestling kind of off the court drama stuff to prop up some of the ratings and the interest in the league in general?
The only people, and first, Wes, thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course.
And just so everybody knows, Wes is one of my good friends. So just so you know, if he ever goes on a podcast and says
we have
we're
the
not
record.
friends.
Me and Mo, we're good friends.
We're good friends. We're good friends. We hung out in San Francisco once in the Bay during the finals one year. So good friend, my good friend Wes Goldberg. The only four people this thing was good for was LeBron, Pat McAfee, Stephen A. Smith, and ESPN as a whole. For everybody else, it was bad. And like I get everybody who loves the drama and wants this and that, all the clickbaits and all the millions of articles that are going to come out of this and all the think pieces. This was bad as a whole. Like, this is amazing. And the thing, I'll tell you the why, which is kind of almost ironic in a way, Wes, of like why LeBron would do this. This comes on the same day they announced that Mind the Game is coming back with Steve Nash and LeBron James.
Yep.
In that sense. And it's almost the anti-Mind the Game thing that he did, right? Like call. That's the whole point of the Mind the Game podcast is, hey, nobody's talking about basketball. Let's talk about it, break down the game, which, by the way, I do on my Twitch show Monday through Thursdays, 11 a.m. West Coast time.
Great job of it.
But like, it's so frustrating with all of this. Like, it's kind of like, I get why LeBron did it on the Pat McAfee show. It's an FU to Stephen A. It's one of those things, and it's exactly what Pat McAfee would like. It also happened by chance that he happened to be in Indiana right at the time. Kind of the timing worked out perfectly for all of this stuff. But this is all just terrible for the game and for the sport. Like, this is all we're going to talk about. We're not even going to talk about the Pacers-Laker game, which LeBron had a great tip in at the end. We're not even going to talk about how fun that game was, right? We're not going to focus on the amazing MVP race that we have with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Nikola Jokic. And you know why? Because LeBron's not in that race. Like, we're not even going to focus on any of the fun stuff that's going on with all this. This is going to be a distraction that's going to do big, big ratings. There's no doubt about that. It's going to do huge numbers, all that stuff. And I know I sound very Trumpish when I say, it's always going to do huge numbers, all of that. But like, this wasn't good for the game. It's to the, like, listen, I never partake in any of this stuff. I don't listen to Stephen A. Smith. I don't like First Take. I don't like, I see the clips every now and then on Twitter. I don't watch the Pat McAfee show. If you do, by all means, enjoy, have fun with that. Everybody's got different preferences with all that stuff, but it's not the stuff I want. It's not the content I'm looking for. And I know I'm actually in the minority because ESPN is paying big bucks for these things. They're only doing it because it brings in ratings. So this is just a big ratings bonanza. If I'm Adam Silver, I am furious right now. Absolutely livid, this whole thing. And then Stephen A. coming out going like, if he put his hands on me, I would have swung. Like, oh God, why are we 5 years old? Why are we five? Why are we acting like this?
It's embarrassing. It's playground stuff. It's very interesting for a lot of people who are sort of out here, casual fans of the sport. I get questions. What do you think about Stephen A. and LeBron? I don't get questions from a casual fan of, do you think Jokic or SGA should be the MVP? Maybe here and there. I shouldn't say never. That's not fair. But a lot more about this kind of stuff. And, I get it. Like, this is The NBA, it's fine to lean into the player movement and the drama and the personalities. I would argue that that's the thing that makes the NBA special, more special than the NFL or Major League Baseball, is we care about who these players are. Ever since Bird versus Magic and Michael Jordan, we've really cared in terms, and I say the we just in terms of general NBA fans, not even people who cover the sport, just people who love the sport, care about their personalities. That's what draws us to the sport in a lot of ways. But there's a way to overdo it too. And this feels like it's not only overdone, but almost also inauthentic. Like this isn't why we like the sport. And it feels very performative. And we know that there's reasons why LeBron is going on Pat McAfee's show and saying these things, and why it's specifically that show and all these things. And I don't think any of it is that, like, I don't think LeBron's a mastermind, right? In this regard, I think it's pretty clear what he's trying to do. He's going on the other big rating show that's not Stephen A's show, right? And McAfee has kind of created a little nook here on ESPN where if you have a problem, if you have a bone to pick with ESPN, you go on McAfee's ESPN show to do it. And he'll bring you on and he'll give you the space to kind of roam and do that stuff. I mean, even when McAfee had a problem with Adrian Wojnarowski, what does he do? He brings on Shams Charania all the time. And that, that's kind of this place that McAfee is doing. But like I said, I'm more interested in why did LeBron choose to say these things in that way on that platform at that time? And I'm kind of just going broader. Why do basketball players feel more and more like they have to go at the media? One of the things LeBron said in that interview was that the media that covers the sport has gotten, quote unquote, too comfortable in what they discuss. And then he uses two instances, right? Joel Embiid, right? And going at that reporter who mentioned his, and LeBron got a couple of the facts wrong, but basically, that Embiid went at the reporter, the columnist in Philadelphia, who said something about his brother in a recent column. He didn't actually go up to him in the locker room and start talking about his brother, but he said it in a column. Either way, Embiid, totally fair to approach the reporter in that way. We can get into whether the physical stuff was condoned or not, but that's less of the problem.
It's never condoned. It's never condoned. The physical stuff should never be condoned in that sense. Yeah.
Right. And then he brings up Stephen A., which is obviously the personal beef. And then he kind of makes up a made-up shot at Brian Windhorst, which was completely out of bounds and false. And there's plenty of places that you can go online and find why that's not true and kind of get into that conversation. But using those two instances to then go at the media in general, my take here is I'm not telling you that everybody that covers the sport is awesome. You and I disagree with how Stephen A. is handling this, right? But my problem is when we just call it the media as an entity. It's like saying all basketball players flop their way to points. Not all basketball players do, but some do. And I don't think I'm breaking news when I'm saying generalizing is usually bad and leads to confrontations that are bad. And I just feel like the basketball players have now not only generalized the media by handpicking a few reporters who they have a problem with, or people or talking heads who are not in these locker rooms and including them in the larger media, but also conflating social media with what media is. And I think there's a real big problem here with how the sport and the players view the media, how we define the media and talk about the media. But we have a really big problem, right? And that's just me. Just personally, I just will defend the media because I'm part of it. But then there's a bigger problem is why do the basketball players feel more and more like they have to attack and criticize the media? And if what LeBron says is that if LeBron says that the media has gotten too comfortable, you know that there's a lot of players thinking the same thing. And I'm interested in more in what that means and why.
Yeah, so there's a couple of things. One, I thought the Joel Embiid thing, I did think the writer was out of bounds in bringing up the death of his 100%. Brother and all of that stuff, right?
Yep.
I did think Embiid was wrong for putting hands on him. Confronting him in the locker room, totally fine with that. This is, God, I'm so old. But a long time ago, J.A. Adonde was teaching a sports column class at USC. And I happened to be taking this before I was working in the awesome. NBA itself. And he kind of made a point of I forget the exact points of the story, but he had written an article where he ripped Kobe Bryant, a new one in the article. And he made a point, and this is very important. This will always be why J.A. Adonde will always be highly respected in my book. And he's a Hall of Famer and all of that. But he will always be respected for me because he said, I make a point the day after the column comes to
Show
be
up.
available for the player to say whatever they want to me.
Yep.
Like to say, obviously he's not saying, hey, let's fight, but like he is, I will be available. So if the guy has problems, I'm here.
Yep.
I'm not hiding. I'm not ducking. I'm available.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's kind of like, for me, that's a level of respect. Also, I don't think the players understand that stuff. I don't think the players understand even how the media actually works. You know
I
what
think
I mean?
about Anthony Edwards as a rookie, and granted he was a rookie, so maybe I'm not. Maybe this is unfair, but as a rookie, he questioned reporters in Minnesota about why they were asking him such hard questions if they work for the team.
Right, but I mean, to even go a step further, like back in the day, not too long ago, when Jovan Buha was writing for the Clippers, a beat writer for the Clippers for The Athletic, he wrote an article talking about the problems in the locker room, and Patrick Beverley looks at him going like, I thought you were with us. No, he's not supposed to be with you. He's not a Clipper.
Right.
And that's actually, and by the way, that's also a problem with our sports, with some of our sports media brethren, is they tend to think it's us and the way they respond, you know, to a lot of these things. And I can go 5 hours on this, Wes, and dissect all of this stuff. But I just think the thing is, though, like, I think somewhere along the way, the sports media did get lost, did get a little bit comfortable, not in the way LeBron thinks, but did get comfortable, and in the sense of thinking they're part of the team. And this happens with a lot of beat writers, and I get it, because their success, if the team's good, their success grows with it. So they're always rooting frankly, for the team. Particularly,
being a beat writer is really weird. As somebody that was a beat writer for the Warriors for years, like, you're around the team more than you are the people that I worked with at the I never saw the people at the San Jose Mercury News. Like like what you would argue, you know, most people go into an office and they have coworkers who they see every day. The people I saw every day were Steph Curry and Steve Kerr and Draymond Green. Those are the people I saw every day. And so yes, it's hard, but that's what makes it such a hard job, is that ability to maintain that objectivity while doing that job. But there's so many different layers of the media. You have the beat reporters. And I would wonder if I could get like a moment with LeBron when he says that the media has gotten too comfortable. Is he talking about the guys is he talking about Dave McMenamin, who's covered him for years? And is he talking about these guys who have covered, or is he talking about people on TV? Or is he talking about social media and the way that they will go at LeBron and how he handles the Bronny situation or whatever it might be? I don't know. And that's the part where I get to, like, when they say media, I just don't know what they're talking about anymore. And it kind of we don't have to go this broad, Mo, but like, it contributes to the problem that people just have with, quote unquote, the media in general in this country. And I have a real hard time with just generalizing everything. Like you said, there's going to be bad apples with the Embiid situation. That guy was totally wrong to include that in his column, but he showed up, and Embiid was wrong to physically, touch him. But, there's media who step out of bounds every once in a while, but it doesn't mean the media is the problem here. But I'm like, why? We've seen NBA players go at refs. We've seen them go at a lot of different things. It feels more and more now that they're going at the media than they ever have.
Yeah, and I think there's an element. Part of it too is the media is so eager to have them, to have the players and kowtow to them, and like, let's just go to all the player podcasts. Right,
I'm glad
the amount of revisionist history on all of these player podcasts is phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
Is phenomenal. Like, it's amazing.
It's their
in
truth,
that sense. Like,
but it's not
it's right. It's right. And if nothing will piss me off more than this, "It's my truth" is a phrase I wish we can just fire into the sun and get out of everybody's lexicon. Like, like Wes, I'm pretty grumpy today in general. So it's like,
right.
There's a lot of juice with me, but I just think, and I don't want to harp on this because we got a lot of good stuff to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
I would just say, like, the thoughts here is, like, my thing with LeBron and him being upset with how Bronny James is covered.
Mm-hmm.
It's his fault. It's 100% his fault. Is it fair to Bronny? No. The coverage has not been fair to Bronny. But they have tried to manipulate the situation as much as possible. And I say they, meaning LeBron and Clutch, to engineer so many different things that it has created a spotlight on the kid that is unfair to the kid. Plain and simple. I'm going to be writing an article this weekend, really just talking about his game. I am going to write an article for Bleacher Report focused on Bronny's game. We'll see if how that turns out. But they have made it so much. Look, he's only going to work out for the Phoenix Suns and the Lakers. They're warning other teams not to draft him. He gets drafted by the Lakers. He gets as the 55th pick, gets a pretty solid guaranteed contract. Okay, that's a little bit abnormal, but fine. If the Lakers want to throw their money away, fine. And I was defending them. I said, listen, man, it's the 55th pick. Like, who cares type of thing. If the kid turns out to be a player, great, works out for the Lakers. If not, like, whatever, they appease LeBron, that's fine. But then you start hearing things of like, Bronny's not going to go on any of the road games with the G League team and all that stuff. And all of this hurts his development as a player, but more importantly, just hurts his development and stunts his growth as a basketball player in terms of dealing with everything that comes with it. Right. And then he does do a interview with Joe Varden recently, Bronny does and stuff like that. And that's fine. But like a lot of this stuff is all engineered behind the scenes with all of these things. And you look at it and you just got to say, like, man, you're not doing him the service. Either he's good enough to be in the NBA and survives on his own, or he's not. And by the way, if he's not, that's fine. That's a number of NBA players have come into the people have gotten drafted. Number 1 picks have gotten drafted and have washed out of the league. Like, it's fine. It's okay. But they put such a spotlight on him. Now, don't get me wrong. How the media has covered it has been awful. The way Stephen A. Smith has gone at it has been awful. I don't agree with it. I think that's unfair to Bronny. I don't care about LeBron's feelings and that point. I feel like it's unfair to Bronny in all this. And I think we've lost sight of the whole thing. This is all about, we made this about LeBron and Stephen A., but it's really Bronny who's the one that's going to suffer at the end of this. Remember, the 4 people I mentioned, and I guess one was ESPN, so it's an entity as a whole and not a person, but you get my point. None of that, of those 4, Bronny wasn't one of them. This doesn't help him. This puts more of a spotlight on him now. It makes it, it's an unfair situation that he has become a target. But I also feel like it was LeBron's doing to make him a target with his comments. I'm watching the league tonight and Bronny can start over all of these guys.
I think some of what he's doing too now is maybe trying to backtrack some of that stuff. He maybe consciously or subconsciously knows, maybe I thrust this kid into the spotlight a little bit too much when I was trying to prop him up a little bit here and try to get him into the league. And now that he's here and has a contract, I kind of want to backtrack some of that stuff. And now I want to say, just let him be. Just let him be.
Yeah. And I want to do one more point, and I think we should move on because we've gone already way almost too 20, long on a subject we both don't really care about. When I started in the media, and this wasn't that long ago, and I came from the NBA, not knowing anything about the media game, I knew one thing: don't become the story. That was like one of the rules in the media. We've completely thrown that away. Stephen A. Smith is part of the story. Not even, forget this LeBron situation. They filmed his entrance to the Knicks game last year. Like he was a player walking into the tunnel. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't give a flying fuck about Stephen A.'s Knicks fandom. Don't give a flying fuck about it. And I apologize. And you understand, Wes, the Band-Aid has been ripped. Like he didn't even know Quentin Grimes wasn't on the team anymore. Like let's just stop pretend like this whole fandom stuff and things like that and all of this situation. As soon as we made it about the media, and it's not just Stephen A. Smith, Kendrick Perkins is in there doing stuff. It's as soon as we've made it about the media personalities and not about the game and the players and the sport and the coaches and all the stuff that's happening, we've lost.
ESPN,
and we've lost the number 1 rule.
And you're pointing out everybody that works at ESPN, and ESPN has become a little bit of a problem here. We can go back to firing.
I can also fire off stuff at TNT with Charles Barkley. It's because we love Chuck. It's fine, but like he's made himself the story a bunch of times as well. With comments about like the fat women in San Antonio or whatever that comment was, or recently complaining about going to San Francisco.
The ESPN part of it is, well, we're going to do this and then we're going to recycle it and turn this into content where When Charles Barkley does it, there's obviously things that we could poke holes at. When Chuck does it, at least that's the content and that's the end of the content. There's no recycling of it. ESPN is very much in this business of creating content between making the media the story and then commenting on that story. We're going to move on. But if I'm NBC and I'm taking over media rights and I'm going to put a whole show and all this content around the product, I'm taking notes on everything that is going on right now. And I'm like, okay, roadmap of what not to do.
We hope. We hope
we
it's the
hope.
roadmap of what not
We
to
hope.
do. They
Well
might
said.
be
We hope.
looking at it going like, look at the ratings they're getting.
Who's our
Maybe we
Stephen
have
A?
to do that.
Right.
Maybe and
I hope not.
It's not. It's and same for Amazon. It might be look at what they're doing. Look at the numbers that they're getting off of this. Maybe that's the route we have to go.